It's amazing what a difference 12 years makes. In 2009, it came out that Prince Harry, when talking about a fellow officer cadet at Sandhurst called the man called Ahmed, his little packy friend. He also talked about ragheads. It's reported in the same news report in The Independent in 2009. Now, the very people that stood against Harry then and condemned his behaviour are now rallying to the defence of Harry and Meghan, the prince and princess of wokeness, the prince and princess of anti-racism. The reality is, Harry, the little boy who dressed up as a Nazi, and let's give him the credit to say he wasn't a very mature 20-odd-year-old when he dressed himself as a Nazi at a fancy dress party. This same individual is now lecturing the British people, the British press, and his own family about racism, along with his supercilious, preening, pampered princess or fake princess of a wife. Harry, we are not going to take your lectures on racism. We don't care about you. You have done more damage to the UK than 1,000 suicide bombers could ever do. You have done more damage to the UK than the real Nazis did when they came and bombed your grandmother's house in the 1940s and killed tens of thousands of British people. You have done more reputational damage, because what that did was that brought our country together. But what you are doing, you are not only damaging the reputation of the royal family, and I, for one, when I look at the Queen, I have nothing but admiration for her. The Queen has been like a grandmother to every single true British patriot for the past 70 years, or a mother and a grandmother to patriotic people and the patriotic people of this country. She has been a steadying, calming, guiding hand through many crises that would have seen other countries fall apart and descend into chaos and anarchy. And when we look at William and Kate, and then we put them next to you, Harry, and next to you, Meghan, and we make a comparison, we see William and Kate through this pandemic doing Zoom calls with people who've been suffering, reaching out to the real people of the United Kingdom in a very real and genuine way. And we look at you holed up in your mansion with your rich buddies trying to stitch up another deal out of Netflix, trading off the name of the royal family. And then you have the audacity to throw your grandmother, your grandfather, your father, your brother, your sister-in-law, your stepmother under the race-baiting, rainbow-coloured bus. And you think that's acceptable, Harry? You think that's acceptable behaviour? Well, Harry, you can go back to walking barefoot in the park with your wife, while the rest of us will get on with rebuilding Britain after this terrible pandemic that has destroyed so many jobs, destroyed so many lives and livelihoods, and will set us back economically for many, many generations. But you'll be all right, Harry. You'll be okay. Living in your $11 million house with your bodyguards that you had to pay for out of your inheritance. All you had was your mother's inheritance, Harry. All you had was the £14 million that your mother left you, Harry. Spare me the sympathy. Or spare me when you're trying to get sympathy from the British people. And then we look at the media. And of course, it was only a matter of time before Piers Morgan buckled under the stress of actually taking a stand and what that meant. He took a stand yesterday morning. He called Meghan out for what she is, a self-serving race baiter. That's what Meghan Markle is, the princess of woke. He called her out yesterday morning. By the end of the show, he was in bits. He was panicking, sweating profusely as he does when he gets under pressure. And then this morning, that race-baiting weatherman who incidentally took part in the demonstrations in Bristol when a statue was vandalised, ripped from its plinth and thrown in the sea or in the docks. That man was there, this race-baiting fellow. I can't remember his name. I don't care what his name is. He's not important. But he's mixed race or biracial, whatever that is now. That's the latest term, biracial. My goodness. Is this what we're judged on now? What's in our DNA? Because if you go back far enough, you're going to find we've all got African DNA somewhere. So we can all become victims of racism. Is that what we're saying? Do you know what? I'm actually going to get a DNA test done. So that next time one of these people with a different skin pigmentation to me starts lecturing me on how I can't be racist or how I can't speak about racism and how racist I am because I'm white and I can't have an opinion about racism because they're black and I'm not. Well, next time somebody starts lecturing me or lecturing our country or lecturing the good people of this country on how racist we all are, I'll pull out my DNA test and no doubt, there'll be some Irish blood in me. There'll be some Jamaican blood in me. There'll be some, African blood in me. See, I was born in Liverpool, a very, very multicultural city. So who knows what's in me? I haven't got a clue. Don't really care. But I think I may well just get a DNA test just to find out. So what do we do? What do we do with these vile, disgusting race baiters? I mean, every single person, I've noticed this, every single person of colour that speaks on the television now shuts down the white person that's speaking to them. This is racism. We are seeing a complete inversion of the racism that I've always stood against. We are seeing black racists belittling and deliberately humiliating white people on national television and silencing them and not giving them opinion, playing the race card continually. It's insidious, it's vile, it's disgusting, and it's deliberate. And these people want to destroy our culture. They want to destroy our society. They want to make us ashamed of being British. Well, I want to tell you something. I'm proud to be British. And I'm proud of a lot of stuff that the British Empire did. I'm proud that the British Empire took medicine across the globe, improved the lives of millions of people across the globe. I'm proud that our Queen is the head of the Commonwealth and she's held it together for the past 70 years. And that little Ginger Pratt, I can say that because that's not racist. That's just talking about the colour of his hair. That little Ginger Pratt may well have imploded the royal family, imploded the good influence that the royal family has had over the Commonwealth for the past 70 years. And you look at the countries that have fallen under the sway of communists, that have fallen under the sway of vicious military dictators since we left, since we pulled out. And I would even say, even in these British Isles, even in Great Britain and Northern Ireland, we see what happens when good governance is handed over to the people who, through their Marxist or extreme nationalist ideologies, fought against the British. We see what happens. We see what's happening in Northern Ireland with the vile IRA Sinn Féin, their lackeys in the SDLP and the Alliance Party. We see what's happening with the disgusting, discredited SNP in Scotland, turning good governance into what is little more than banana republicanism. That's what we've got. We've got a little green banana republic, an unripened banana republic in Northern Ireland, thanks to Sinn Féin. We've got exactly the same in Scotland, thanks to the SNP. And right the way through Africa. I remember spending time in a West African country. I don't want to say where it was because I don't want to compromise the people that work out there, because obviously my views may not be in line with many of the people that I used to work with. However, when I was in West Africa, I asked members of the church, black Africans who'd lived through the British Empire, colonial rule, and had lived through the civil wars, the chaos and the dictatorships that followed the British colonial rule. And they said to me, when the British were in charge, things were better. Now, they wouldn't say this publicly, and that's why I'm not telling you what country it was. They wouldn't say it publicly, but those men stood up and said to me, these were elderly men who'd lived through British rule, and they'd lived through the dictatorships and the civil wars that had followed the end of British rule. And they said things were far better when the British were in control. And that is an indictment not on the latter stages of empire. That is an indictment on the way that the empire was abandoned and the way that good governance was abandoned in many parts of Africa as the British and other Western powers pulled out and pulled back and left the countries to their own devices. If you look at Uganda under Idi Amin, horrendous, horrific. If you look at Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe. And of course, these things are controversial. You can't say these things. You're not allowed to say these things. But the time has come that we have to speak the truth. And I think South Africa, unless something dramatic happens, may well go the same way. These countries became, instead of Rhodesia was called the breadbasket of Africa. And Robert Mugabe and his vile communist henchmen, nationalistic, black nationalist henchmen, turned Zimbabwe from the breadbasket of Africa to the basket case of Africa. So getting back to the point, I've gone off on a real tangent there and we've gone all the way around the world. But the reality is I believe the UK is under threat from these sinister forces, sinister anti-British, UK-hating forces. And we must stand against them. And to Harry and his bit part actress wife, Meghan, you should hang your heads in shame, you pampered, privileged little ponces. Enough said, I've had enough of it. See you all soon.